Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. It's been a crazy week, and you can see by the circles under my eyes that it's been an iffy week for sleep. So we have a lot to talk about with these solar flares and what's going on. First and foremost, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If this is helpful, by all means, like it. Pass it around because some of these symptoms are getting more refined and specific. And I want to talk to you about that. Also, I've got the door open to my office because it's just lightly rainy outside. Now, I live in the Pacific Northwest, which means that we've been covered with um, forest fire smoke. So, this is just a great blessing. So, when you think of me in Montana, please send no more fires, clear skies, and lots of rain for a while. I think it'll be wonderful. So thank you. All right, let's start. The topic is, how do we respond? How do we begin to respond to these massive flares? Because per Pam Young, and she put this out yesterday, that between Saturday, July 27th, and yesterday, August 3rd, there was one X flare and 69 M-class flares. Some of them were every hour on the hour throughout the day. Some of them were 5 or 6 per day, which is just as your system starts to sort of recalibrate and relax, it goes boom, and it gives you another one. So what we know about M-class flares is that they are these tower moments, right? They're beyond sort of the nudge. They're going to change you in the environment that you're in, and we're going to get you to readapt. I like the way Osho does this because it shows the figure of a person in meditation and that kundalini energy and all of that static coming up and out. So if you think about it, 69 of these. That's not including what happened in the early evening, in the early hours of today, Sunday, or up until at this point. What I do know is that we're in the middle of a geomagnetic storm that's a level 3 KP7 right now. It started about 45 minutes ago, and it's continuing. So first, we've had an enormous amount of M-class flares. Number 2, we have an active, unsettled environment around Earth. Unsettled in that there's so much static coming in from the flares, but from also the winds and the photons that are coming. Okay. Now, I think it was about a week ago, Pam Youngins on her Facebook showed a picture of these enormous sort of band of sunspots going across the sun. And so we knew we were in for something big this week. We just weren't sure what that was going to be, right? So I found a new discovery. His name is Alexander Quinn. He does a lot with star seeds and light holders, star seeds and light workers and whatnot. However, his data is pretty interesting. So he said that what we're encountering is that this energy is pummeling us at such an enormous degree that we are challenged to assimilate, challenged to integrate. It's almost like I've used this example before, the old Lucille Ball, where Lucy and Ethel are working in a candy store with the conveyor belt, and you can do really well when it's like boom, did a boom, did a boom. You just do your little task. But when then it starts to speed up, you don't know what to do. So she starts shoving it in her mouth, shoving it down her clothes, holding on to it because you don't know how to assimilate. It's this rapid increase in light codes in energy that's coming towards us. And it's also the fact that the speed and the duration of the flares is interesting because there's these long duration, which means that they start and then they go long for 2 or 3 hours. And we're not used to that. We're used to like having these little starts, these little jump starts. but these long ones or these peaks. So in some cases, the M's are staying at 1, 2, 3, M1, M2, M3, which is still in the lower level of the tower, right? However, when it gets into M7, M8, we've had a couple of M9s, they're almost X flares, and they're the most intense of the M class or of the tower, which is I'm not messing around anymore. Okay. So then another person, because I collect pieces of wisdom, right? So I'm going to find other people. And I found Amanda Lawrence. I've been following her for about 4 years now. And she's been putting some very specific data out over the last week. And I like what she has to say. So I thought I would share it with you. She says that we have this inability to cope, to mentally cope and create neutral ways of being. We have the inability to do that because there's things going on. There's an increase in nervousness and anxiety. There's insecurities in the mind, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to think my way through this, right? There's that panic and worry that comes when we don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I've never done this before. I can't find resources. Thank goodness you're here working on this. And we're in this community, by the way, of answering questions and replying to each other has just been phenomenal. So this ends up being the place where we can go to find out, or at least explore with this. Zaza just put down in my chat that you can't unclench your jaw. And I've noticed that I've had some, especially on this left side, some jaw and some teeth issues, and teeth are really big right now. Okay. There's confusion, there's overwhelm, there's delusions, which is, hey, if I just plow through it, I'm going to be fine. Or, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm better than ever at work. I'm better than ever with my kids. These kinds of things you're watching and you're going, really? So really, you don't look like you are, but you keep telling yourself that. And again, the ongoing list of physical symptoms, which we know, and you can go back to previous videos to look at those if you're new. She's also talking about, depending on your personality type, you're going to go into some sudden actions. You're going to choose to even deepen your illusions, which is I'm absolutely fine as long as I have my wine at night, or I have my TV on, or it's summer vacation. I don't care what time the kids go to bed. These illusions where you're just making things harder and harder on yourself, right? And these are your programmed personalities acting out. This is the way you've been programmed to think by your parents. This is the way that from your culture, this is the conditioning that we held, that these are starting to agitate us, right? So this may look like an increase in some of the ways that we disconnect, like our addiction, whether it's wine, weed, doesn't matter, television, shopping, anger, sex. These are these things that just come up that are our addictions to. This is our go-to when something isn't working, right? Control. I'm watching some of these naturally controlling or organizing sun signs really agitate. They just can't seem to get their drawers straight, their clothes straight, the house straight, the work straight, the phone straight, like everything, right? There's the give up victim, right? Which is like, no matter what I do, it's not going to work. So these are where our personality, the things that we've always done, are just getting worse. Anger and blame. If you would, then I would. If you would just, right? My favorite is if you would just be quiet, then I wouldn't have such a headache. If you would, blah 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 blah, right? So what are you noticing? What am I missing? So when we have these personalities that have a certain way of reacting to things, these are our trained personality. When I don't know what to do, I plan something. When I don't know what to do, I control something. I organize. When I don't know what to do, I check out and I self-medicate, right? So what is it that you're noticing? Okay, so just put that little pin, bing, go back and find this and what is it that you're noticing, okay? Because all of our people, places, and things are under scrutiny, duress, change, adaptation right now, right? Okay, so Lee Harris, he did his energy report and then he's done a couple of channels from the Z's. And he said that this intense energy is going to cause some dramatic changes and changes in people, changes in places, changes in things. And he said, wow, like pay attention. You may think that you want to stop hanging out with a certain person, right? And you go, wow, that was kind of random and very fast. And then what Lee is saying, and I know this as a Pisces, is that it isn't it isn't that one thing. It's that there's 10, 11, 12 times, 12 things that they're doing where you keep compromising, you keep going like, I wish they wouldn't do that. I like hanging out with them, and then all of a sudden, you go, okay, I'm done. It's over. I can't hang out with you anymore. It's too hard for me to manage my system and deal with what you're putting in. Okay. So Alexander Quinn, going back to him, is going to also say that is going to be our partners, our friends, our family, our coworkers, without when they don't understand, when they refuse to deal with what's going on, there's this lack of external support. And that's the part that I found most supportive, was that if I'm around people who aren't aware and aren't doing their research and aren't adjusting and managing themselves really well, then it's too much work to be around them. And I love them, but it's just too much work. It's too hard, right? So let's go back to Amanda, because she just keeps putting her hand on the pulse. And I don't always, go after 3 or 4 people and quote, but they drew such a great picture for me over the last 3 or 4 days that I thought I would bring it to you. So Amanda's like, when we experience mental and emotional struggles, when our mind is just trying to grasp what's going on here and our emotions are all over the place, it's what's happening is our beliefs, our programming, our conditioning are being affected. It's like, I can't do that anymore. The mold doesn't fit. That role that you want me to play, I've outgrown. I've totally outgrown it. Okay. So what she's saying is that when that happens, when there's all this mental, like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I can't, everything hurts. I can't sleep. I'm exhausted. All of this, right? Then that's when we go into this process of dropping down into the heart. And so dropping down into the heart can look like this. This is the Ace of Cups in the Light Seers. Dropping down into the heart can look like this with Osho Zen. So when I'm saying drop into your heart, it's like, this is how we respond. And it's not out of naivete. It is out of, wait a minute, there's a vibrational piece that exists in this spot that if I access it, then I can use the flares with beauty, and I can relax into it, and I can respond, and I can work with it, right? Okay, so I'm going to put another bit of notes up here, because what I noticed is that this tiredness and exhaustion is affecting our sleep, it's affecting our moods, it's affecting everything. And when we go to our hearts, it relieves us. It relieves the mind. That's the best part. It's like when we get here, then our mind starts to go into much more playfulness. I love the 10 of Cups with Osho. When we go to our heart, we access playfulness and light and intuition, and we forget about control and reaction. And we go into responsiveness, which is we're in the flow, and things feel a lot easier. And so flow can even look like this in the physical. This is the Thoth deck. It's the 6, which is, when our breathing is in, when our Tippereth, when our solar plexus are in conjunction with the physical world, we put a solid resonance of resonance, probably a better word, put out there, right? And we have the ability to sort of withdraw and go into calm and spend some time focusing on our heart and letting go of all of the mental sort of anguish that we've been under. Okay. So I have 7 tips for you. We're going to just plow through them, because I'm trying really hard to stay on time, but boy, Okay, so the first one is do a body check-in. First and foremost, do a body check-in. What are you noticing? Is there fear? Is there clenching? Is there body pain in certain places? Is there a lack of control? What is it? And then kind of go like, this is that first place to start, and do it hourly, do it daily. Because what you want to do is you want to assess, how am I really doing? Ooh, I noticed there's a little bit of a wobble there in the YouTube connection. Okay, so I'm back. So, how do you assess? Because if you're not assessing, hey, how am I really doing? Then you don't know what direction to take or what choice to make. So, the first thing is to do a body check in, do that scan. Ooh, how am I doing? Well, I'm a little pacing. I have this pacing energy. I don't know quite what to do, and I'm a little anxious. Okay, good. Now it's a great place to start. And then number two, choose the heart, relieve the mind. When you choose the heart, you go out of your head and you go into, according to Heart Math Institute, a field that is 5,000 times more powerful than your head, and you give it a break. You give your head a break. It can release, it can relax, and you rest there, right? You rest there in your heart. So this might look like rhythmic breathing. This might look like humming. I notice that when you hum, your brain really can't function. It just shuts it all down. And what I love is within the thought deck, the two of swords is like a wild card. You could put it down and it just shuts your brain off immediately. So sometimes it's fun to just sort of put this up and hum. You're consciously freeing your chest, your brain to relax. So the other thing you can do is you can feel your chest expanding and contracting, right? This slows down time and it releases. It helps you release that grip. Now, let's talk about that grip, right? Because slow motion makes everything much more apparent to you. So by going into your heart, you just slow everything down so it becomes much more manageable and you can respond to it. This makes sense. Number three, surrender. Do what your heart wants, whether it's peace and quiet, whether it's letting go of a task, whether it's, letting go of a to do. Now, I've been saving for a new car, so I'm not buying a car right now. I don't have a car. I have a bike, and I had a car this weekend. Somebody was going out of town. They said, you could use my car for the weekend. So it's sitting in my driveway, and it's Friday night and it's Saturday night. And I'm like, jonesing. Oh, there's live music. Maybe, where am I going to go? Let's go. Let's get on the phone. Let's get on the phone and start finding out who wants to go do something. And then I go do the check-in, and it's like, no, stay home. Rest. And I was like, no, stay home and rest. So surrender to the energy that you're being asked to do. Okay. Number four, trust. Trust that the flow that you're in is going to adjust you. It's going to bring you into a place where you want to be. Right. So when you trust that it's less fixed, there's less requirements of you, you're stepping out of programming, and that you actually get a lot more done. So the example would be, for me, is that in the morning, I have my morning routine, and then I start the kettle and I boil and I make my tea, and it takes 2 to 3 minutes to steep. So I make the tea, put the tea kettle up on top to keep it warm, and then I have this flow where I go make my bed. I tidy up my room and I move. And in 3 minutes, I, at this luxury pace, just sort of move and tidy up the whole house and feel like I'm at peace, and I'm not judging myself, and I'm not in anxiety. I'm just in a flow. And so when we go to the heart, we have the ability to slow it all down and trust that things are going to get done. Number five, renegotiate. Renegotiate with yourself, renegotiate with others, renegotiate for what you want to do, and trust that the right people will step in, the right job will step in, the right tasks will step in. And so this is a process of trust, huge trust. Okay. Number six, I've noticed quite a few of my peer groups within my men and women within my peer groups are exploring microdosing, whether it's with CBD, whether it's cannabis, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's cacao. They're finding very small doses that they can do in a conscious manner and say, what do I notice? How do I get to my heart from that path? And then training their body to go there when they're not using microdosing. So this isn't microdosing all day and coping. This is an intentional dosing to say, how do I calm my system down? How do I recognize how it feels? Because some of us can't get there. We don't know how to imagine it. We can't create that. So just put that out there that let it teach you is a possibility. Okay. And then the last one, number 7, is compassion. We're doing this very differently across the board, all of us. We all have our own approach. We all have our own field. We all have our heart that's leading us. So, stepping away from people for a while permanently, leaving jobs, changing your patterns. These are all what everybody else is doing. So, thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you next week. And by all means, chat in this. In the comments and support one another. And I will respond to those tomorrow. You take care. Bye-bye.